Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to our program this evening. We're live, we're national. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and I want to get into some of the news of the day. There's plenty on here. I doubt I'll be able to get to everything I want to get to, but we're gonna hit it hard here. One of the first things I want to talk about is, of course, the left is still just as radical as ever. You've got a new study exposing how the George Soros empire and the funds that he's been directing are continuing to go to his pet projects, in particular, the global climate change agenda. So who cares if Klaus Schwab has moved over? You're just going to get new faces, new crazies, as these old crazies move to the side, in my opinion. What else do we have? We've got another bunch of headlines here. We've got tonight, we're going to hear about RFK. On Friday, Secretary RFK made some announcements, but there's some new announcements that were made today. On Friday, they were about autism. Today, they're about the banning of petroleum-based food dye. And we're going to talk about some of the things that Secretary Kennedy has put out, from autism to its impact on food. We're going to do that with a mom who's been fighting back against unsafe food, fighting back against the unfair vaccine requirements and other health requirements. And you've got to hear this one mom's story of abuse that comes out of a boarding school. So keep it locked here for that. That's coming up in a little bit. We're also going to talk about the plight of veterans, the toll of mental health on our American vets. Secretary Hegseth recently announcing some new standards, physical fitness standards, and along with physical fitness goes mental fitness. And we're going to talk about that with a combat medic who's going to be joining us as well. And there's something that I really want to focus on, which is this new axis of evil, right? Or this revamped axis of evil with Iran and Russia getting into cahoots with one another. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But I wanted to say something before I did, because amazing, this story still has legs. The Democrats in El Salvador, right? And it's back and forth. I think now it continues to make its rounds on the media because President Bukele is trolling them. But I have to say, this Senator Van Hollen, he literally is the Tim Walz of Maryland. If there could ever be another Tim Walz, it would be Van Hollen from Maryland, because he just is that kind of, well, you fill in the blank on that one. But I want to get into this because State Department making a lot of big announcements today, shaking things up. Listen to this.
We are facing tremendous challenges across the globe to deliver on President Trump's America First foreign policy. We must make the State Department great again. In its current form, the department is bloated, bureaucratic, and unable to perform its essential diplomatic mission in this new era of great power competition. Over the past 15 years, the department's footprint has had unprecedented growth and costs have soared. But far from seeing a return to investment, taxpayers have seen less effective and less efficient diplomacy. The sprawling bureaucracy created a system more beholden to radical political ideology than advancing America's core national interests. That is why today Secretary Rubio is announcing a comprehensive reorganization plan that will bring the department into the 21st century. This approach will empower the department from the ground up, from the bureaus to the embassies, Region-specific functions will be consolidated to increase functionality, redundant offices will be removed, and non-statutory programs that are misaligned with America's core national interests will cease to exist. Under President Trump's leadership, we have a commander-in-chief committed to putting America and Americans first. As his Secretary of State, Secretary Rubio, announces that he is in fact confident a reformed State Department will meet the moment and help make our country great once again.
Making America great again. That's Tammy Bruce. She's terrific, State Department spokesperson. And I have to tell you, when I heard this news this morning, I read it on Newsmax.com. It was an article that they were putting out about a statement that was released by Secretary Rubio. And I've got to tell you, this was music to my ears. You know why? Because a week ago, when the Trump administration said we're going to be cutting the State Department budget by 50%, I said, that's a good thing. Now, not just because of the cost savings, but more so because there's two things that you really need in order to ensure the permanency of the deep state, or what some call permanent Washington, the administrative state, as the great one calls the federal Leviathan. It's all the same thing. It's this massive bureaucracy that exists but for your money, right? Because it wouldn't if they didn't have your money, if they didn't have your tax dollars. So one of the things I think Trump has been adamant about is saying, hey, we are going to get rid of the IRS, which is the clearinghouse for taking people's money and skimming off the top, right? That's one big step. The second big step, I think, is this right here, where we say we're going to stop funding the deep state, right? He doesn't have to put all that out there, but I think I know how to read in between the lines. You know, I know how to put my my tinfoil hat on and say, when you're eliminating duplicitous offices, isn't this typically where they hide deep state people, deep state actors, and especially the ones that like to do things overseas and have influence in other countries, right? The CIA types? Sure it is, right? They parade around as diplomats and foreign dignitaries and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you, from the White House, say to them, we're not doing this anymore, they think you don't know where everything is. And the reality is maybe you don't know where everything is. But you do know one thing. You've got the power to stop the funding on these things, all right, to some degree. And you have Congress that's in alignment with you. And that's a force to be reckoned with. And I think this is a very important thing. So we take away their money, and now we take away the little nests that they've made in other parts of the world, saying we're going to regionalize this so that, you know, things in this region of the world will all have this one office that will report to this person overseeing this, putting the Secretary of State directly in charge of USAID. Brilliant move. Can't trust anybody? Trust yourself. Get in there and get her done. I love it. So this, to me, is exactly how you dismantle the deep state. Again, you are ridding the hornet's nest of the hornets. Right? You eliminate the nest. Now, I know some people were thinking, but why don't we put the nest, the hornets in jail? Well, I would say you don't need to put the hornets in jail if you've eliminated the nest and you've taken away their money. What about accountability? What about making things better is what I say. And I take this position all the time because this is an ongoing argument that I have with some family members. And I believe that they have bought into a false dichotomy where they believe that they must somehow have some sort of mass arrest of the bad guys, quote unquote, in order to move forward. And the reality is we're going to move forward irrespective of accountability or not. And it's very difficult sometimes to lock up the bad guys who are sometimes the lawmakers and know exactly how to break the rules because they made the rules. So I'm not defending the bad guys. I'm just saying once you've rewritten the rules, you've taken away the little nest, the little hideout. You've taken away their money, their supply, their food supply. Well, you've in effect smoked them out and rendered them useless. Kudos to President Trump. Brilliant move. So I want to talk about Iran. I want to talk about Russia and this strategic alliance they have. But before I do, I always have to take a moment and remind you of what? of everybody that's struggling to listen to this show. I know some of you struggle to listen to this show, and your radio station may not be clear in some areas, although we got listeners from Canada, listeners from all over the place, literally outside of the country. Here's what I recommend to anybody who wants to hear this show live and clearly all 3 hours. Get the CC Wi-Fi 3. It's an internet radio by a company called C. Crane. Now, here's why this CC Wi-Fi 3 is so special. It connects the CC Wi-Fi 3, the actual unit, it connects to the internet. And then you're ready to tune into over 30,000 radio stations globally. That includes stations, obviously, that carry my show. No static, no fading, nada. It's perfect. Now, this voice-focused audio quality, it surpasses anything that you would get on a smartphone. It's the best stuff on the market right now. Plus, there's no need to sign into any apps, so you don't have to worry about additional monthly fees, no eavesdropping microphones, or those annoying pop-up ads. None of that. This is an actual radio that works by way of the internet. And it has a full-size remote control, so finding whatever you want to listen to while sitting in your favorite easy chair has never been easier. Now, this thing doubles as a Bluetooth speaker, so you can listen to your favorite podcasts, like mine, or your favorite music. It's a win-win. To order the CC Wi-Fi 3, just call C. Crane at 1-800-522-8863. I'll give you the number again. It's 800-522-8863. Or you could visit C. Crane online at ccrane.com/rich. I'll spell it out for you. That's CCRANE.com/RICH. And use my name, Rich, at the checkout. You're going to get 10% off any order that you make that's more than $75. Plus, it's also available on Amazon. So what are you waiting for? Go to ccrane.com/rich, and I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I'm for stopping Iran, very simply, from having a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. I want Iran to be great and prosperous and terrific. I stopped them once they were broke and they didn't have any money for Hamas. They didn't have any money for Hezbollah. There wouldn't have been an October 7th disaster. They were broke.
That is President Trump today remarking on Iran. Of course, this comes following the announcement of Russia and Iran signing a 20-year strategic agreement. I want to get some info on this, but before we do, we have Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister in Russia, making a statement to this effect. Listen to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, today my colleague, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Mr. Basarachi, and I conducted thorough negotiations, which reaffirmed our shared goal of achieving further positive results in our bilateral relations and international cooperation. This includes the development of the agreements reached by our presidents.
Now, there's additional reporting that there is a scheduled or reported scheduled third round of talks with Iranian representatives in Oman, following what both American and Iranian sources describe as a successful second round of negotiations in Rome this weekend. So the conversations continue. What they're entailing, I don't know. I know Steve Witkoff is there on behalf of Secretary Rubio, who's overhauling the State Department, and there's a lot to take apart here. So I want to get into as much of this as we can with our guest. He's been with us before, and I'm happy to have him back. He's Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance to Iran, NCRI, Alireza Jafarzadeh. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Rich. Always a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to get to this, and I know I threw a few things out there, so let's take our time going through it. We've got about 4.5 minutes here, and then we'll come back and continue the discussion after the commercial break. But what is the significance of this strategic alliance, this law that Putin has signed into effect?
Well, I think, Rich, we have to look at everything that the Iran regime does nowadays in the context of the negotiations that is ongoing now between the United States and the Iranian regime. It's not that suddenly they woke up in the morning and decided to have a 20-year strategic partnership with Russia. The same thing with what they're doing with China. The regime is trying to cover up and make up for the absolute weakness that they have. They have no leverage coming to the negotiating table. They have never been so weak and desperate. They need something to hang on to, so when they sit at the table, they have something to use. And the whole thing related to their relationship with Russia, we should look at that in that context. It's meant more to have an appearance of leverage, of appearance of building strategic relationship with world powers like Russia or China, but in reality, this is a clear sign of their weakness, their desperation, or just showing keeping face, and that's why I don't think we should be intimidated what Tehran is trying to do. I don't think the Russians are in a position to really help the Iranian regime, because the Iranian regime is really a lost cause. They're losing in every field, in every area, in the region, inside Iran. Nothing is really going to help them. And I think this agreement, which we don't know all the details, whatever it is, it's not going to save the mullahs from their own population, from their weakness, and from their imminent destiny, which is being overthrown by the people of Iran.
Alireza Jafarzadeh, I hear you loud and clear. I guess my question here is, if Iran is as weak as you're saying they are, why is the United States investing so much in these talks with them?
Well, I hope they see the opportunity here. Investing in a right way, because first of all, the Iranian regime has been violating all of the agreements that they had before in terms of nuclear weapons program. The world has to make a decision about them, because there's a timeline going on. There's come October, the UN Security Council resolutions. A lot of those restrictions are going to be expiring. And then the ability of the world, including the United States, to snap back these sanctions and bring back all the UN Security Council resolution sanctions on the regime will expire in October. So there is an urgency on the table. You need to stop the regime from building the bomb, but also you want to do it in a timely way.
Makes sense. Alireza Jafarzadeh, we're coming right back with you. He is the Deputy Director of the Washington office of the National Council of Resistance to Iran, the NCRI. He's an Iranian whistleblower on the nuclear sites that led the UN inspectors there, and he wrote a whole book about it called The Iran Threat. Folks, we're coming right back with Alireza Jafarzadeh. Don't move a muscle. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The signing of the agreement on comprehensive strategic partnership has taken our relations to a new qualitative level. This agreement provides long-term prospects for our relations and shows the world that we are moving in the right direction and striving for long-term cooperation. Issues and events that will occur in the future regarding Iran are a strategic decision, and we will remain committed to this decision and move forward in all directions.
So there you have that. Again, I want to return to our guest, Alireza Jafarzadeh, Deputy Director of the Washington Office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran. He was the Iranian nuclear sites whistleblower to the UN that led UN inspectors to those sites way back when, and he's the author of The Iran Threat. Alireza Jafarzadeh, welcome back, sir. And the media in Iran, the media in Russia, and to some degree, I guess, the media in the United States seem to be putting a lot of stock into this agreement, sort of reminiscent of the axis of evil back during the Cold War. You say, not so fast. These guys don't have a leg to stand on. A lot of this stuff is smoke and mirrors to create the illusion that they're playing with major players. But they are, in fact, trying to get a nuclear weapon, which the Biden administration said they likely already have. Where do you think we're at with that process?
Well, first of all, Rich, the way you summarized what I said was much better than what I actually said it. Kudos to you. Excellent, excellent. Second, the big reality is that if really Russia wanted to give a meaningful help to the Iran regime, as they did about a decade ago, they could have done it regarding Syria. As you know, Syria has been the biggest ally of the Iran regime for decades. Back in 2015 and 2016, when Assad was in huge trouble and it was on the verge of collapse and had lost Aleppo, which was a major city in Syria, actually the most populated city, the Khamenei supreme leader asked Putin to come to Tehran, which he did twice in 2015 and 2016, met with Khamenei, and also the top terror master of Iran, known as Qasem Soleimani, who was the head of the Quds Force that carried out all of the terror operations, was heavily involved in Syria. He's the person that President Trump and the United States targeted and killed in 2020. He also met with Putin in Moscow. Eventually, the regime managed to get the Russians involved, and eventually their involvement in Syria was instrumental, in addition to whatever the regime was doing with its proxies, to keep Assad in power. That's a huge help that the Russians provided to the regime. Now, this time, back in December, the whole Syrian government and Assad, the whole thing collapsed in 11 days, and Russians were nowhere to be found, nor could they do anything. The whole balance of power has changed against the regime. There's no reason, there's no interest on the part of anybody to come to save, a dying creature. That's the situation with the Iranian regime. Now, does that mean that they can't get any help from anybody? No. But the important thing is that to understand the weakness of the regime. What is the game that they're playing? Especially this is timed at the same time with the trip of Arakchi, the regime's foreign minister, to China, talking about the same things. So when it comes to the Trump administration and anybody involved in the negotiations, they need to understand the party sitting across the table with them is not the same party that sat across the table of, during the Obama administration. They are much weaker. They have no leverage whatsoever. They have lost their biggest ally, Assad, in the region, their biggest proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militias in Iraq, and a whole host of other groups that have been pretty much shattered. But most importantly, inside the country, this regime is in big trouble. There have been 9 rounds of major uprisings in Iran since 2018. That's after the 2015 nuclear deal. People calling for change, for the overthrow of the mullahs, chance of death to Khamenei. And this wasn't just like the capital or a certain area of the country. No, in all 31 provinces of Iran, there have been uprisings. The people of Iran are fed up with this regime. The economy of the country is in shambles. The Iranian currency, rial, has lost about half of its value since last August when the new president of the regime, Pezeshkian, took office. nothing is working for the Ayatollahs. And now they have this big, crisis, which is the nuclear issue. The Trump administration is telling them, you either end the nuclear weapons program or else. And what they want to do, they want to find a way out of it. They want to find a way to keep the nuclear weapons program. They want to find a way to keep the ability to enrich uranium, because that's the core of building the bomb. And in order to do that, they're just making offers. They're creating, a smoke screen by the Russians and the Chinese and others, pretending as though like this is another 2015. No, the entire thing has changed. And I think this is an opportunity for the Trump administration to really call for shutting down the entire nuclear weapons program of the Iran regime. No enrichment capability, no justification for none of the sites that they have, because everything that you have is related to nuclear bomb. The program has never been peaceful. And here's the opportunity to really also end their terror machine and all of that. But given the experience of the past decades, Rich, I think the only sure way to end the nuclear threat of Iran is to end the rule of the clerics. And of course, that's the responsibility of the people of Iran and the organized resistance, which, by the way, the Iranian opposition has never asked for boots on the ground or appropriating money. All they're saying is that recognize our right to bring down the Ayatollahs, recognize the right of those who are confronting the Revolutionary Guards on the ground, what they call the resistance units, to bring down the regime. Think about it, Rich. A free Iran, a democratic Iran, a non-belligerent, non-nuclear republic Iran, what a difference it will make for the whole region, if not the whole world.
Interesting points. You raise a lot of interesting points, Alireza Jafarzadeh. Now, you mentioned that this process has never been peaceful, and I would agree with that. Now, with that being said, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. We're ready to do our thing against Iran. And President Trump seems to be holding his hand, slowing him down, saying, hold on a second. This was even brought up in a question and answer session on Thursday in the White House. We have a quick clip of that. I want you to listen to this.
You waved off an Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. Can you comment on that? Is that accurate?
And they say the attack is what?
That you waved off an Israeli plan to attack Iranian nuclear facilities.
I wouldn't say waved off. I'm not in a rush to do it because I think that Iran has a chance to have a great country and to live happily without death. And I'd like to see that. That's my first option. If there's a second option, I think it would be very bad for Iran. And I think Iran is wanting to talk. I hope they're wanting to talk. It's going to be very good for them if they do. And I'd like to see Iran thrive in the future, do fantastically well. I know the Iranian people, they're incredible people. Always have been very smart, very energetic, very successful people. And I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody.
So President Trump seemingly wanting peace, not war. Oftentimes when I speak with experts like yourself, they oftentimes remind me that the Iranians don't really do peace. They only understand strength. Where do we go from here, Alireza Jafarzadeh? Is the United States going to be going to war with Iran?
Well, first of all, keep in mind that the Iran regime has been at war not just with the people of Iran, but with the rest of the world. They are the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. They're developing nuclear weapons. They have a very advanced, sophisticated missile program. Their drones are ending up in Russia, in Ukraine, being targeted. They target the Ukrainian people. They're threatening everybody. So, but when it comes to the solution, you don't want to think about just delaying things. You don't want to think about a band-aid solution. This is not the time to punt the ball, okay? This is an opportunity right there that has never been this close to end the rule of the clerics in Iran. I'm not suggesting for the United States or any foreign power to do the fighting for the people of Iran. All I'm saying is that this opportunity is there because on the one hand, this regime is extremely weak, And this is the time to make them weaker, make them pay the price for what they have done in the past, hold them accountable for what they're doing instead of giving them concessions. In the past, different administrations, but also in Europe, what did they do with the terrorism of the Iran regime? They gave them more money. The regime took hostages. They gave them more money and to release some hostages only for them to take more. That policy has to end. Now is the time to do it. The Trump administration has stated the official policy of maximum pressure on the Iran regime. And I think maximum pressure means really holding them to account. Don't give them anything that they could use to continue their activities. You don't want to legitimize their program. You don't want to legitimize their actions. But also, the best pressure on the mullahs is standing on the side of those who want to bring down the mullahs, who want to bring about change in Iran. The Iranian people are the biggest allies of the United States and also the rest of the world. That's where you want to invest on. And I fully understand that the president doesn't want to go to war. I commend that. But there is an opportunity without going to war to end the threat of the Iran regime. And that's where the direction. But between now and then, you definitely don't want to allow any kind of enrichment capability, any part of the nuclear program of the Iran regime. That needs to shut down. And I think if the United States stands very strongly against the Iran regime and don't fall into their traps, there is a good chance that the regime will face a situation that they would have no chance but to back down. But they need to see the pressure. They need to see decisiveness. They need to understand that the outside world is not going to settle with accepting the status quo.
Really well put. Alireza Jafarzadeh, Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance of Iran in Washington, D.C., Iranian whistleblower. I want to thank you, sir, for bringing us up to speed and sharing your perspectives with us. Let everybody know how they can reach you and learn more about the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Rich. You're doing a great job yourself in shedding light on a lot of very complicated situations and making it very simple to understand and make it the right decision. Now, for those who want to follow us on, we're on social media, any of the social media platforms, from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube, Instagram, we are at NCRIUS, where they can also visit our website, ncrius.org. And we very much look forward to hear from everybody and be able to share our thoughts with them.
Outstanding. Alireza Jafarzadeh, I appreciate it. Again, folks, check him out at NCRI, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. Sir, Godspeed to you. We'll talk again really soon.
Thank you so much. It's at NCRIUS. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Amigos, your calls, thoughts, and opinions are all coming up right now. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. There's a fire, a wildfire is what they're claiming, going in Lacey and Waretown, Ocean County, New Jersey. So my thoughts and prayers are everybody with there, the first responders, the people that are fighting these fires, the people in these fires. If you are in that part of the world listening to us on one of our many affiliates in those areas, give us a call, give us a scoop and an update on what's going on. I'd appreciate it. And right now, I want to go to Marcus calling us from Washington, D.C., WMAL. Marcus, go right ahead.
How are you doing today? Glad to hear you on here on WMAL. I was just thinking about a clip in the movie Full Metal Jacket when when the general came and saw the peace sign on the private, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come on and get on the team so we can go in for the big win?" I just don't understand what's going on with the far left and the Democrat Party at this point in time. I mean, their own party knows that they're not doing anything. They're painting these narratives that somehow like everyone out here is stupid and don't know things from Chris Holland going down to Van Hollen going down to El Salvador to try to release a MS-13 member. Clearly, NBC and DC blurred his hands, let all the other prisoners go by, but somehow they blur his hands. You know,
with that crazy tattoo on it.
Say it again? Yes,
I said, yeah, they blur the hand that has the MS-13 tattoo on it.
Right. So every else in CCOT is going by, there's no thing, but all of a sudden NBC blurs it as if it was blood or something. Never ask if he's an MS-13 member. Ask the wife if she filed a report against him, if he, you know, if she felt threatened. And she replied, I'm just glad that he's alive. No pressing real journalism anymore. And so, I mean, I just don't understand. Like, why don't they come in with the big win? I had so many things I wanted to say. I was so blown away by your guest, just the understanding and involvement in what's going on in Iran. I mean, I wish we had that judge that told Trump that he needed to bring Abrego Garcia back to tell him to bring Iran to release the hostages in 1980. I mean, if that's all it took was them to tell him to do it. I mean,
I love it. Oh, that's great. I'll probably remind everybody of that comment, Marcus, because it's such a good point. You know what? You're right. I was at lunch today with a friend of mine, and he tells me, in all seriousness, he tells me, dude, what is going on with the Democrats? They're literally flying to another country to defend a guy that's like a gang member, and he's not even a U.S. citizen. They didn't fight this hard when U.S. citizens were taken into prison, like even Brittany Griner. They didn't fight that hard for her when she was locked up in Russia. They don't fight this hard for any hostage, and yet they are going as hard can be for Mr. Kilmar Obrego Garcia. It really begs the question, why? What's in it for them? Marcus, excellent point, and great joke about the judge. I wish it wasn't funny or true. Marcus in Washington, D.C., WMAL, great call. Call back anytime, my brother. Thank you for listening. Folks, we're coming right back. We're going to take your calls from Florida and everywhere else. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, with a minute to go on the clock, we go to Tommy, Naples, Florida, WGUF. That's the Gulf area. Go ahead, Tommy.
How you doing, Rich? Hey, I just wanted to say I'm pretty much a new listener, but I just love your style. I love your show. I listen to it every day. The last caller touched upon what I wanted to touch upon, so I won't waste any more of your time. Just wanted to say thanks for the good work. God bless all of you, and God bless America.
Oh, man, Tommy, that was great. You have a background in radio. You got in and out so fast. That was great. But, you know, I see that your comment here was the Abrego Garcia situation is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And you know what? I think a lot of people feel the exact same way. I'm still trying to listen, I've been doing this for a little bit. I can't figure out why any politician would hang their hat on this or choose this to be the hill that they die on. Because let me tell you, this is one of those things that will kill a political career. This is a very bad move. Very bad move. We don't endorse gang members, and the Democrats are going to put this guy on the ticket for 2028. Unbelievable. All right, amigos, Rich Valdez. Tommy, thank you for the call. I'm coming right back, and if I'm not, God bless you, America.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. I am thrilled and blessed to be here with you guys. If you want to join our late night national town hall conversation that we call Open Phones Across America, make sure you give me a call. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And what I want to get into right now is some of the stuff that's happening in Washington, because there's plenty going on in Washington. There's also wildfires, apparently, that are difficult to contain in New Jersey. You ever heard of a wildfire in New Jersey? Well, they're out of control, and I'm trying to get my hands around that. So my thoughts and prayers are with everybody down there. But I want to talk about some of the stuff going on in Washington today, because the left continues to do what they always do. And one of the things that stood out for me today was this big announcement from RFK, Secretary Bobby Kennedy from the Health and Human Services Department. Listen to this.
The food companies for working with us to achieve this agreement or this settlement. And when I went in a few months or about a month ago to meet with the food companies, I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said, if they want to add petroleum, if they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us. And without our knowledge or consent. And unfortunately, we're going to get rid of the dyes, and then one by one, we're going to get rid of every ingredient and additive in food that we can legally address.
Again, that is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, saying if you want petroleum, you eat it, right? You can add it yourself. We're not going to add it for you to food dyes. And this is something that you've got parents, moms in particular, all across the country. They've been fighting this for a very long time, saying it's part of what causes autism. You've got people saying it's part of what causes ADHD. Some people say ADHD is not even a thing. It's really all because of food dyes, red dye 40, right? And I could tell you as an ADHD person that I've seen the effects of how that stuff actually, when you take it out of your diet and then reintroduce it, you definitely feel the difference. And it's not just the sugar part of it. It's definitely the red part of it, at least from what I can tell. Because the green ones aren't the same. I mean, all of it's not good for you. But I've noticed that food dyes in general, they're not good for you. Definitely cause a reaction, overstimulation, all sorts of, you just kind of get like, whoa, what's going on here? Anyway, we're going to get into a conversation on that straight ahead. We're going to speak with a mom for liberty, actually, and we're going to talk about food dyes. We're going to talk about her, what I'm going to call an epic tale, really, because she went through quite a story of abuse at a boarding school, and that in itself is quite a story. And we're also going to get her thoughts on, the passing of Pope Francis and what that means for many different movements, because some churches in her area, not necessarily Catholic churches, but churches overall, are embracing what is being described as a progressive flag, which is a version of the LGBTQ flag, a version of the trans flag. It's a combination of flags. So we're going to get into that, as well as some political talk, and find out what Moms for Liberty are doing, in particular in New Jersey. So that's coming up in a little bit with Alex Bougher. But there's also these wildfires in New Jersey that started a couple hours ago, and working on getting one of the mayors from Ocean County on the phone to give us an update following our interview with Alex Bougher. So keep it locked right here, because we're going to get into that. And these fires are really just surprising to me, honestly. Very, very surprising that we have wildfires in New Jersey, especially South Jersey, which is such a flat area. It's I guess Hawaii's flat as well, but and they had that craziness that happened there. but you've got 3,200 acres are on fire. 3,200 acres, 3,000 acres have been evacuated. This wildfire is going on in Ocean County, New Jersey. So just crazy. Containment right now, as of 40 minutes ago, is just at about 5% containment. This is a massive fire that I hope is under control sooner rather than later. And I'm looking to get an update, like I said, from one of the officials down there very, very shortly. But until we do, we're going to have this conversation on food dye, on red dye 40, on the gay, trans, progressive flag churches, the illegality of all of that, the politicization of what's going on in these churches, and so much more with Alexandra Bougher for Moms for Liberty. She's going to be joining us straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez, live with you from New York City. And, of course, we're talking about the death of Pope Francis. We're talking about the encroachment of the radical left as they continue to sexualize communities across the country and so much more. And I want to bring in our guest, Alex Bougher. She's the head of Moms for Liberty in my neck of the woods. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today.
You bet.
Very excited.
I want to talk about this. First, we'll start with the big story of the day, Pope Francis dying. And I just want to preface this by saying, of course, my thoughts and prayers to everybody that's a Catholic. But the alert that I saw was on Twitter. And when for whatever reason, I looked at the comments. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I was looking for one nice comment, and I found it from a guy that said, I'm not a Catholic, but the Pope was really a great peacemaker. And I heard Jesus once said, blessed are the peacemakers. And I thought to myself, wow, because there was a whole bunch of other people that really didn't like this guy. I got to tell you, I didn't know he was that unpopular.
I think the problem is that people feel so abused and taken advantage of, and this is supposed to be, the church is supposed to be a place of faith and worship and a safe place, right? And that's a word that the left likes to use quite a bit, but this is an appropriate word to use here because you should be able to go there and really feel safe and tell your sins, if you would, or wishes or whatever. And unfortunately, there has been a lot of abuse in the church. So I think that people now put those two things together. They just don't feel safe there anymore. And they're really starting to talk out about that. So there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt, and people aren't afraid to show it. They're not hiding it anymore.
Have you heard anything from the moms that you're in touch with about a potential leadership vacuum in the world of a religious figure? Anything like that?
Not really. We're personally, Moms for Liberty is very mission focused. So in other words, we're all about parental rights and empowering and educating parents to protect their children and to protect their rights. So we really try to stay in there, but I'm not really hearing anything, in the other mom world about that at all. No.
Now, as we know that this particular pope, he was very popular for being very liberal. He was a very liberal pope. He was very focused on allowing a lot of things to go. And I think that's why he today is not as revered as other popes in the past. But kind of switching off of that, but in that same vein, there seems to be a lead that was taken. People have picked up that mantle of folks in the church community, not necessarily Catholics, but other churches that have embraced the flying of the LGBTQ flag or even the flying of other flags that I didn't even know existed. And I think this is something that happened in your community.
It did. So a lot of churches, and one specifically in my town as well, fly what's called a progressive flag. And it's not your typical pride flag, right? So it doesn't just have the rainbow colors. It also has a black triangle. It has a little circle in it. And that will stand for non-binary or trans. And, this is, again, some people will say, faith is faith, love is love, everyone is welcome here. And, while that is wonderful, and listen, love who you want to love, it's not an appropriate flag to be flying because unfortunately, the baby blue and the baby pink have been taken over by the MAPs or pedophiles.
Well, tell us about this MAPS. I talked about it on the show before, but when it came about, it was a professor, I think his name is Alan Parker, Allyn, and he himself or she herself was trans and was talking about this minor attracted persons. Blew me away.
Well, they want it to not sound as bad, right? They don't want pedophile. Everyone knows what a pedophile is, and that sounds awful because it is awful. And so they want to bring this, it's sort of like if you're straight, gay, or now that's your sexual preference. And they want to make it seem mainstream. It's not mainstream. You're not a minor attracted person. You're a pedophile. And unfortunately, they have taken over the colors of this flag. So now when it's flying in a church, that's what it's, saying to people. Hey, if you're gay, you're welcome here. If you're straight, you're welcome here. If you're trans, if you're non-binary. And now, if you're MAPS, you're welcome here. And that's, completely inappropriate.
This is interesting to me because I think people that struggle with whatever sin issue is their issue, and I don't think they should be precluded from a church.
Sure.
But the argument that they make, and this is something I heard on the radio, there was a station in Philly that a lady called in, like my show, people call in and say what they want to say. And this woman called this station in Philly and said, I'm working on behalf of this organization that is helping to destigmatize pedophiles because people think that minor attracted people are the same as pedophiles, but the reality is just because they're attracted to children doesn't mean they've committed any crime, and we shouldn't treat them like criminals. And in my head I was thinking, until they do, right? And I didn't mean to be mean. I meant to be a dad, right? That's right. The dad in me thinking, if you have if you're an alcoholic, and maybe alcoholics can spend a lifetime in recovery without ever drinking again. I don't know if that's the case when it comes to recidivism with child sex offenders. So there's so much I don't know, but my gut tells me this is not good. And I know if I went to a church, and I do, and I had kids when I went to church when they were little, I did not want anyone that was of that persuasion to be around my children. And matter of fact, if you were working with kids in any of the kids' ministries in the church, you had to go through a rigorous background check. So I wonder, is it a situation, and this is really a question, but if people are minor attracted and they want to live a Christian life or any other faith, is there a special church that they go to? Is this the church for the MAPS people? Is this the church for the lesbians and gays? I don't know because I don't know if it's my position to say your sin is not as good as that sin or my sin or this lady cheats on her husband or that guy, right? So it just becomes so crazy to me. But there's no flag for the adulterer. There's no flag for, the guy that, I don't know, beats his wife or whatever the sin of choice is, right? So to me it becomes, what's up with the flags? Even if you're going to accept all people and say, come as you are, Jesus loves you. Right. Okay. What's with the flags?
I feel like there's so much to unpack here. There's a lot. Like, first of all, to drink alcohol is not illegal, okay? But to touch a child is. So there's a huge difference there. And if someone were to say, hey, I'm really attracted to that child, that's going to draw attention to someone like, okay, that person's about to do something that's illegal. If you were to say, hey, I'm going to go hurt that person, it's everyone's job to try and stop that person from hurting that person, right? So to me, those are two very similar things right there because they're both, you don't hurt somebody and they're both illegal. So, yeah. So that's the difference right there. So there's no way for them to be able to live, even if they're just thinking about it. We're just allowing them, here, just live your life until you do something bad.
Encouraging bad behavior.
And you're encouraging bad behavior. So I just really feel like if that's something that you're thinking, hey, let's get you help.
Right.
But you shouldn't just be walking around. You certainly shouldn't be around young children. Mm-hmm. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I'm a cheer coach. I run Bible club at school. You have to go through all kinds of certifications, background checks, all kinds of things that they check to make sure that you're an okay person to be around children. Yeah. And I think that's very important. if I were to hang that flag, for instance, in my classroom, I would hope that the parents would be, very concerned and say, hey, that needs to come down. You're with our children. This is what that means. And that's what these churches don't understand. They just want to say, oh, you're against the gays, or you're against, these maps, or you're against. No, I just want to protect kids. You can love who you want to love, marry who you want to marry, but you don't talk to children about it. And that's something that people, they can't seem to wrap their head around. When I was in first grade, I didn't know the sexual orientation of my first grade teacher.
Right.
That's not something you talked about. 6 years ago, if you talked to your kids about this sort of sexual nature, you would have been arrested. If you showed them a book that had pornography in them, which now is like being pushed in these schools in this agenda, you would be arrested. And instead, now you're the one who's in trouble for not allowing your child to look at that flag, to read that book, and so on and so forth. So we need to now that Trump is back, it's great, but we as parents and community members, because you see it happening too, we need to stand up for what's right and say, hey, this doesn't belong there, get it out.
What is Moms for Liberty doing to work with these churches? Because it sounds to me, you make valid points, and I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Sure.
The reality is a church ought to know the difference between harboring someone that's potentially criminal and the love of Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And if there's a gray area, then things should be clarified by way of the community, by way of the court. What is it that you guys are doing to bring this to their attention and to help the community?
Well, we do a lot of community outreach. We do a lot of programs. We work with the schools. We work with the churches, the ones that work with us. They often look at us a certain way as well. And we're trying to get rid of that stigma and say, hey, listen, no, we can help you. Like, we're here to help you in any way that we can. And some of them are fantastic, and they work well with us, and we raise money for them. And, we could do fundraisers, and there's a lot of outreach in terms of young women that need help, especially, maybe they need help going to school, or maybe they prom dresses. I mean, you name it. Well, if there's a need, we'll help with it. And that's a great way to learn your community and really find out what's going on. Unfortunately, the churches that have something to hide, they're the ones that are closing the door in our faces. When we said, hey, listen, you shouldn't be putting this flag at a church where young children are present, honestly, it's illegal. It shouldn't be up at all. But you have young children there, so certainly it should be taken down. They'll just turn around and
free
start.
Speech.
Yes, that's it. Well, free speech. Oh, Moms for Liberty is a hate group. All these other things. No, we don't hate. What you're showing is illegal, and it's abusive to children. So, there's a difference there. It sounds like
there's a high degree of politics involved within the church, sadly.
Sure.
Folks, we're on with Alex Bougher, Moms for Liberty, and when we come back, we're going to hear about her story, what got her interested in this, and her very interesting journey. Don't go anywhere.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back, amigos. We continue our conversation with Alex Bougher. She's the Moms for Liberty go-to person in my part of the woods, Bergen County, New Jersey, New York area. Alex Bougher, welcome back. Tell us a little bit about what inspired your journey. How did you get to where you are today, where you want to do Girl Scout leading, where you want to do everything under the sun, where you're really this all-around great mom?
Well, thank you for that. We are very busy. I have 3 beautiful children. They are definitely my life. I'm not really sure what I would do without them. I didn't have, I would say best childhood growing up. It was my brother and I. We were home alone a lot. I pretty much would raise him, after school. My parents were both very hardworking people, but they just, you had to work 2-3 jobs to be able to afford to live in Bergen County. They moved up from the city and Weehawken and up to Park Ridge where we are. And so they were just never home. I definitely didn't really get along really great with my parents, for sure. I can say that. But, I also kind of was rebellious as well and ended up going to boarding school from 14 to 18. And that was a lawn school in Maine. And that's actually got shut down. It was one of the most notorious abusive schools in the United States. And they would have kids come from all over, from Dubai, from Brazil, all parts of the United States. And from all different reasons, right? Maybe you didn't get along with your parents and you wouldn't stay home like me. Maybe you did have a drug problem. There was all different issues to be sent there. But it was run by people like absolutely no teachers, no therapists. It was actually opened by a mafia guy, Joe Ritchie, up there in Maine. And he usually just owned horse racing places.
Wow.
And he decided, he saw this huge money maker in the troubled teen industry, and he said, all right, I'm going to open a school, and charged parents $50,000 a year, and think this is 1994, so that's a lot of money. And you lived in these really barren sort of, the bunk beds were from the old army bunk beds, and there was nothing, right? But they would show these parents these beautiful brochures of everything that we were doing that we were not doing. And it was a absolutely horrific place. You couldn't talk to your parents for a few months until you wrote this guilt letter. And, if it didn't seem like enough, you basically had to lie to sort of talk to your parents and get to that point. And I had no one to advocate for me. I was 14. I just got there. I didn't know anybody. You can't talk to your parents. They would brainwash you and manipulate you. And they would listen to your phone calls when you could finally talk to your parents. Jail. It was worse than jail, honestly, because at jail, you could smile at the person next to you. If you smiled at the person next to you, they would say, are you trying to form a contract to run away together? It was wild. You couldn't smile at anybody. You couldn't look at the front door. They would, take your laces away. I mean, it was worse than jail. Wow. And if you were somebody like me whose state would pay for half of it, instead of only being there for a year, you went for 4 years. And that was during Christmas and summer, no vacation time, nothing. You were there. And so when I left there, I definitely felt happy to leave and definitely in survival mode. Okay, I really don't know too much about life or how to even be an 18-year-old, and what do I do? And I had nobody that could help me with that, and felt very lost for a long time. Finally did figure it out, and fast forward to having 3 kids and COVID, and seeing what was happening to these children on a day-to-day basis. They're getting yelled at for having water, or looking out the window, or
going to the playground.
I'm like, oh my God, this is like boarding school, not as bad.
Right.
On this other level with little kids. What are they doing to these children? They're not taught how to think, but what to think. And it's a prison there as well. Asked to go to the bathroom, asked to share your thoughts. And this really got me thinking about, okay, maybe this public school system is not right for kids, or maybe I need to help the troubled teens. I didn't get the help that I needed. So that sort of got the wheels rolling. And then when the mask mandates came, I was like, no, my kids are not wearing masks. You're not going to cover their beautiful faces. It's not happening. And I wrote this whole letter to our school about Murphy's executive order. And it said, well, my son has speech and hearing issues and my daughter has an IEP. At the time they were 5 and 7, right? The little ones. And the principal was actually great. He's like, this seems good to me, but, the superintendent said no. And that's when I realized I didn't know my rights as a parent. like, what do you mean no? This is my kids. I'm telling you, you know? And that really, excuse my language, it pissed me off. I'm like, I got to do something about this. So I had seen something about Moms for Liberty on TV, and I gave them a call and talked to actually Tiffany on the phone. And I said, how can you help me? I don't know what I'm doing. I should be the ultimate say about what goes, on my child, in my child and what they learn, and I don't know my rights here. So they were great. They taught me. We got a lawyer. They were in school maskless 3 or 4 days later. And really all they wanted was that signature on the same piece of paper that I wrote. And that's really what it came down to, was the school is afraid to get sued. It's all about liability. So, just learning about all that stuff. And it's been a wild ride since then, and helping other parents and helping children. And we still have a long ways to go.
What's coming down the pipe for you for the foreseeable future? What's the next big project?
Big project. Well, I would love to really help people on a larger scale. I'm actually writing a book currently about the troubled teen school industry. I'm doing it in my spare pockets of time, so hopefully it'll be out in a year. But just sharing with everybody. We're throwing some really huge events to bring it nationally. We were at the Reawaken tour with Clay Clark and General Flynn, and that was really, really awesome. Trying to talk him into doing a Keep America Awake tour. Like, don't get complacent. I know Trump's in. I know it's the golden, age and era. But this is how it happened the first time. Was people got, complacent, and they got comfortable, and they let everyone take over, and we can't do that again. So I'm really trying to talk, that into happening, and just basically, doing as many of these as we can, and so that we can reach a larger audience and know, listen, you're not alone. We can help you. We will help educate you. We will empower you. And, you have more choices than that. If your child's having an issue in public school, pull them out. Homeschool them, charter school them. There are so many options. Having your child safe and happy is way more important than making sure that they go to school.
Amen to that. Folks, we're on with Alex Bougher. Alex Bougher, tell everybody very quickly how they could find you and follow you.
Sure. Well, there's momsforliberty.org is our big website, and then you just go by county. So you'll find your state, you'll find your county. If you're in Bergen County, we have Facebook, Instagram, X, Moms for Liberty, Bergen County, New Jersey. Very easy to find us. Outstanding.
All right, amigos, more to come straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
Today, the FDA is taking action to remove petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply and from medications. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been living in a toxic soup of synthetic chemicals. The scientific community has conducted a number of studies raising concerns about the correlation between petroleum-based synthetic dyes and several health conditions, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer, genomic disruption, GI issues, as I've seen in the hospital, and allergic reactions. For example, this Lancet study conducted a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study on food dyes and concluded that artificial colors in the diet, quote, result in increased hyperactivity.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We're about to wrap up with Alex Bougher, but not before we talk about what happened in Washington, because on Friday we heard from Secretary Bobby Kennedy from the HHS about all of these new developments and new facts and figures about autism. Alex Bougher, tell us more.
Yes. So MAHA is a fantastic movement. It's actually probably my biggest passion, actually, myself. I have an older daughter who was vaccine injured by the HPV shot. And that really got me doing some research about, hey, what's in these vaccines? Should we spread them out? Should we not do them at all? And, you know, back then, this was in 2013, you know, you were sort of hushed about that. Like, don't ask those questions. The doctor is always right. And you didn't feel heard. Like, no, my child is hurt. I don't think I should do this to my other children. I need to ask questions. Who should I be talking to? And you just felt that you couldn't talk to anybody and that there was really no one to talk to. And this is, you know, we sort of had our own community for a very long time. My children now go to a holistic doctor and we all sort of talk to each other and we help each other out. And, oh, they have an earache. Okay, mulling garlic in the ears and things like that. But, you know, we really needed more help because why is the autism, you know, rate so high? Why is there so much autoimmune disease? You know, we've been basically told that like eczema is normal or all these other issues are normal. It's not normal. You know, there's a reason behind it. And if you look at the vaccine inserts, it literally says there basically all these toxic ingredients. Okay. If you were to spoon feed your child these ingredients, you'd be arrested. Okay. But instead they inject them in the child. So I think it's incredible that they are looking into this. We were actually able to go down to the White House about a month and a half ago for the first MAHA roundtable with Kennedy, and we were able to say what were the most important things. Vaccines were number one. After that, of course, it was formula and the food and what they're spraying in our skies and things like this. But I think it's fantastic because he is listening to us, and they've been extremely transparent about what they're doing. And as he comes with his findings, he's going to be letting us know about them. But, you know, I think it was Jenny McCarthy, what was it, like 15 years ago or something? She was the first one, and everyone was like, oh, this lady's a quack job, whatever. No, she's a concerned parent, and she was talking about something that she noticed was really real that's happening. And so with Kennedy, it's great because, you know, he's able with, you know, obviously Trump said, you know, go for it, find out what's going on here, and he's able to do that. So I think people, they're really sort of putting him down for certain things that he's saying, but he's just being open and transparent about his findings. You know, you can't fudge the facts, right? If it's 1 in 8 boys have it, and many years ago it was 1 in the thousands, I mean, that's a huge difference right there.
During the roundtable, was there discussion particularly around why that's happening? Is it all vaccine related, or is it part? I know he's talked about the foods.
There's other stuff too. There's like mold issues, parasitic issues. There's all kinds of issues. The stuff that's in the food, you know, usually it's some sort of metal or something's going on in the body that's going to set that off. But if you were to metal detox the child, if you were to strip all the red dye, yellow dye, things like that out of the child, watch the mold, make sure your home doesn't have mold in it, do a parasite detox. We're seeing huge change in children from doing that sort of, you know, holistic therapy, if you would. Different schools, things like that. I mean, you know.
Alex Bougher, what do you think the future looks like? I think Kennedy's going to have an uphill battle. I don't think he's going to lose the battle, but I think it's an uphill battle taking on Big Pharma. You know, it's kind of like him and Trump against the world, right? With a lot of concerned parents and others. But it seems like they have the deepest pockets, the endless lawyers, and this lock on the medical community where it's kind of like, you know, your doctor's in their corner. Not your corner, he's in their corner. My doctor, thankfully, isn't. You know, I've got one of those doctors like, you don't want to take medicine, don't take it. But I think a lot of doctors aren't in that camp, and it seems like it's going to be an all-out war.
Yes. Somebody, I forget who it was, but I read a tweet the other day that said, you know, instead of Pride Month, we need a vaccine awareness or vaccine injury awareness month. And, you know, that's so morbid to think about it and so sad to think about it. But unfortunately, it's not rare anymore. It's more common that you are vaccine injured in some way or another. You just may not know it yet. It may not happen right away. Maybe 10, 15 years, all of a sudden you have, some sort of autoimmune, or, you see a lot of Guillain-Barré after the COVID vaccine. I mean, that one pretty much happened right away, or myocarditis, things like that. So there's all these different vaccines. They all have different side effects. Everyone's bodies are different, but it's happening to so many people that I think that, a lot of people, if they see it happen to somebody else, it doesn't hit home for them, so they don't do anything. But now it's hitting home to someone in every single family. So I think it's not just Trump and Kennedy. Yes, is there an uphill battle? For sure. But I think with anything else, if we sit back and do nothing, nothing's going to happen. If we stand up with them and we say, hey, we're not going to vaccinate our kids. Hey, we don't want this stuff in our food. We're not going to eat it. We're the ones that have to stand up to make change. So, again, if you don't like the schools doing something, don't send them to school. If you don't want your kids to, get diabetes or be obese or be hyperactive, don't buy them the Skittles. It really comes down to us.
Stop the red dye 40.
Stop the red dye 40. Skittles is the worst, by the way. It's
I bet.
So it really comes down to us. They've opened the door for us, and they're able to do a lot of things, but it really comes down to every single household doing their part and not partaking in these things if they choose not to be.
Folks, Alex Bougher, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Check her out at momsforliberty.org. And amigos, keep it locked right here. Your phone calls and more coming up right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Let's go to the phones. Patty, Alsip, Illinois, WLS. Go right ahead, Patty, quickly.
Hi, Rich. I love your show. Okay.
Thank you,
but
Patty.
I have to tell you something.
Yes.
I went to sleep last night and I was thinking about something that you said. I need a word about crotchet. What can I come up with? That's what you said. I got to find a word for her.
Yes.
I have 2 words. You can pick whichever one you want. Crotchodile or crotcheroach.
Crockroach. Jasmine Crockroach. That is mean, but I find it funny, Patty. Thank you so much for that, and I appreciate your kind words. Patty in Alsip, Illinois, WLS. Thank you for A, listening to last night's show, and B, for calling in tonight. I really appreciate it. Let's go to Alex, Daytona, Florida, WNDB. Go right ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my call. I can't
Pleasure.
believe it. I'm listening to the radio. I love your guests. I love your impersonations. And I had some names for Jasmine Crockett. You played one of her clips, and I couldn't believe the vileness coming out of her heart. And so how do you like this? Okay, like a false prophet would be like a famine prophet. So instead of Jasmine Crockett, a famine prophet, because she's full of lies. But the other one I came up with, which is a little crass, is slamming the vomit, because she's just slamming it all over the place, and it is vomit. There's no truth to it. It's just waste, and I don't know. It just I wish you came on earlier where I am.
Vile bile, right? Wow, Alex, you guys are so clever. You guys are, and I think you might like her less than I do, which is interesting, right? Alex in Daytona, Florida, thanks for tuning in, WNDB, and thanks for your kind words about the show as well. We've got Tony in Montreal, Eduardo in Tampa, Florida, and more calls that are popping in right now. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Open phones across America continues. We get an update on the wildfires in New Jersey because we're live and national right now, Tuesday night at 58 minutes past the hour, as well as finding out what's plaguing our veterans. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program, 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're live and national. So if you want to join our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez, and there's plenty to get into. Now, I saw all sorts of reports about Jerome Powell not doing this, not doing that. Now, I could see that he's being rather political. It would make a lot of sense, in my humble opinion, to lower interest rates right about now. We saw him lower interest rates not once, but twice prior to Joe Biden's reelection, his reelection effort. And now that we actually need this stuff, we're not seeing it. Now, he can make whatever case he wants to make. I would say that he just doesn't feel like doing anything, whatever argument he's making. Trump has, tried to make his case for it. And he said, if I ask him to step down, he'll step down. Oh, he'll leave if I ask him to leave, right? Trump said that. But he also said today that he has no intention of firing the guy. Listen to this.
When people in the White House are studying this idea of possibly before his term ends, do you have any plans on doing it?
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier.
Right, and again, just because Trump is cheering on him, the end of his term as Fed chair coming, sooner than later. I think something he put on Truth Social was, the end of his tenure can't come fast enough. This is what I think is causing some of this. But this is how they like to mischaracterize things, right? The media will do absolutely anything. I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking, it's amazing. When the media, throwing the first punch is so effective, right? In a real fight as well as in the media. When the media throws the first punch, they can make you look like anything they want. They can frame the conversation any way they want, right? And I don't mean literal first punches, but I mean by asking certain questions. And the Democrats can do it the same way. Any politician can, for that matter, any side of the aisle. But, just think about it. I was thinking about this, and I was like, if people wanted to make me look like something, what could they say? What could they do? And anything can be taken out of context, right? I went on a trip to Medellin, Colombia, I don't know, a year ago, a little more than a year ago. I was there in January of 24. And, I was there I went and I met up with a group of my friends, and they met up with another group of their friends. And so I met the people there. There was one night where there was a big dinner, and we all went to this dinner. And I met a bunch of people I did not know, and some that I had met once before, and didn't know who they were, what they were about, whatever. It didn't really matter to me. But the point was, after the dinner, I was brought up to speed, like, oh, that's that guy, and those two guys are actually a couple. And I was like, oh, I did not know that. And it didn't make a difference. The dinner was over. But I thought to myself, if somebody were ever asked me, have you been to Colombia and had dinner with so-and-so, this gay guy? I'd be inclined to say, no, I didn't. And then I thought, and I said, but they would try to catch me in a lie because I had dinner with a bunch of people, and there happened to be a gay couple at the table, right? And this is how they go ahead and frame these things to try and come at people. And so they take something Trump says and they try to isolate it and create questions around it to make it seem like something nefarious happened, when, in fact, he's just saying, look, I don't like him. If I asked him to leave, he would leave. I can't wait for his term to be over. The guy should be out of here. Can't wait. Can't come fast enough. But this doesn't mean that Trump is going to be taking the guy out. Because I honestly don't think he's able to technically take him out just yet, right? He appoints him to, I think it's an 8-year term, and he still has some time left in that term. So it's just interesting to me to see the way they do this and the way so many people take the bait. But again, these attacks are just that. He's attacking the guy's policy. Lower the interest rates. Let's stimulate some growth here. You got these problems all over Florida, right? Remember the Surfside thing that happened? Surfside, right outside of Miami, 2021, building collapsed, literally collapsed. And that one I would go with really was a collapse, right? It's built on the beach. Thing went down. It was horrific. And now there's a lot of people saying, well, that could happen to other properties that are on the beach. And I think there's a list of blacklisted properties. That's what I'm trying to say here. In Florida, in South Florida in particular, that banks, or at least Fannie Mae loans, aren't going to be written for. And I saw this smaller mortgage lender mentioning, like in a podcast somewhere on social media, saying, we don't even write loans in Florida anymore for condos because, we're just not interested. And I think, he was trying to make it seem like they were taking the high road here, as if like every condo in Florida is somehow outrageously dangerous. I don't think that's the case at all. And again, I don't live in Florida, but I look at these things all the time. And there are some that are on the blacklist in Florida that are an issue. For some people, the issue in Florida is the insurance that we talked about with Byron Donald the last time he was on. But there's also these 50-year assessments on the homeowners association fee, and the fact that, if the older the building, there's more maintenance. So now there's like legislation that they're looking at to make sure these Surfside situations don't happen again. That this is not a recurring thing. And I think that's a good thing. That's just a tangent I wanted to go on, because I just think it's very interesting that a lot of people are trying to dump their property in Florida. And okay, great. Anytime people are dumping stuff, it's always a good time to buy. Now, thankfully, it's, not a situation where they're trying to get out of property because they can't, get any insurance payment or any FEMA money like some of the people in Hawaii, some of the people in Los Angeles with those quote-unquote wildfires. But there's a new set of wildfires, and they're in Jersey. And these things broke out just a couple of hours ago. You got mandatory evacuations that have been ordered for some homes in New Jersey's Ocean Township. And it's now spread across 8,500 acres as of 10:30 p.m. Eastern time in New Jersey time. 8,500 acres, and they now have 10% containment. You're talking about more than 1,300 structures, buildings, homes, etc., shops, are threatened by this fire, and 3,000 people have been evacuated. This is massive. Not something I've seen in the years that I've lived in Jersey. So I want to get an update on that straight ahead from a mayor. He's a former mayor of one of the towns in Ocean County. He's now a state assemblyman. He's in the state legislature. And we're scheduled to have that conversation with him straight ahead. So keep it locked right here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
On the breaking news on the wildfire in Ocean County, NBC 10 Shire Arias just dropping down on the scene there, live in Barnegat Township. What can you tell us, Shire?
Fred, this fire is growing very, very quickly. Just less than an hour ago, it was reported to be 150 acres wide. At this point, they are saying that it is 1,200 acres. I'm going to move to the side so that you can see what we're seeing right here over Route 72. This is not just a normal cloud you would see in the air. This is a cloud of smoke that is in that area right now. Our Skyforce 10 captured the massive fire forming from multiple points and directions in Ocean County. Residents could see the big cloud of smoke that was hovering over South Jersey as the fire continued to spread this evening. Now, the New Jersey Forest Fire Service's wildfire reported the flames this afternoon before 4 o'clock at the Greenwood Forest Wildfire Management Area in Barnegat Township. Residents on Wells Mills Road from Bryant Road to Garden State Parkway are...
Now, some of what's going on here is just shocking. Other parts of it might be, something that others are used to. If you're out in California and you're used to this type of wildfire scenario, but for people in Jersey, this is a first for sure. At least for me, it is. So I want to bring in somebody who knows a little bit about this. He is a former mayor of Stafford Township, and that is in Ocean County, New Jersey. He's also the current assemblyman there as well for the 9th District, and former mayor of Manahawkin. And Greg Myhre is his name. He's with us right now. Greg Myhre, welcome, sir.
Rich, great to talk to you.
You bet, brother. Thank you for joining me on this short notice. Now, I know that, I'm in North Jersey, and anything south of New Brunswick is South Jersey to me. But how close are you to these fires?
I'm very close, actually. I had known from work this afternoon, and I was made aware of the fires this morning, probably close to noontime. And so it was something we were keeping an eye on all day. When I was driving by on the parkway, I saw it on the west side of the parkway, and it was really quite visible, and I was a bit concerned about the scout camp over there. So I did talk to our scout executive, made him aware of it. He was in touch with his team over there, and it was growing larger at that time. And since then, that was around 3:30, 4 o'clock. It's only grown much larger. I've heard reports of up to over 3,000 acres, which is big for anywhere, but particularly for around here.
Well, just so you know, the New Jersey Fire Service just put out a report at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time that it's now spread to 8,500 acres.
8,000. Wow. Yeah, it is definitely a developing situation. But we are on, just to put your listeners into perspective, we're in an area called the Pine Barrens. We're literally right on the edge of it. My district has a big portion of it is in the Pine, and that is the largest continuous forest on the whole eastern seaboard. So for those of you that use Google Earth, you could see it. You look in the middle of New Jersey, you got this nice big patch of forest, and that's really really great for our state in a lot of ways. But obviously, when you have a fire type of situation, when it's been dry like it has, it can spread pretty quickly.
Now, it rained up here in North Jersey yesterday. Did you guys get rain yesterday, or is that not enough?
We got a little bit. I mean, the kids are out playing. My kids are out at soccer practice, and when they were leaving, there was some rain, but clearly not enough to really give it that drenching that it needs.
There's a lot of people blowing up my text messages tonight saying, is what's happening in New Jersey the same thing that we saw happen in Hawaii and in Los Angeles? And a lot of people think that there's something nefarious going on here, some sort of land grab, that this is not a natural occurrence in New Jersey. It's certainly not one I've seen. What can you tell us?
My mind does not go there first. my first concern is for the safety of the people that are in the district. And to speak to that, we do have a lot of preserved land around here. And based on my observations where the fire appears to have started, I wouldn't think so. Nothing like certainly Hawaii, Lahaina. I mean, that was a very populated, historic, touristy area. Mm-hmm. The fires in California. I mean, there's so many of them. It's hard to keep track. But that's certainly not what. That's certainly not what I'm thinking right now. I mean, just based on I certainly hope that's not the case.
Does it sound or does it seem to you like this is really kind of confined to the nature preserve, to the Pine Barrens themselves? It says it's about 3,000 homes or structures that could be at risk, but I don't know if they're like in the immediate zone or if they're on the outskirts.
Well, unfortunately, so yeah, if it had stayed on that side of the parkway, on the west side of the parkway, I would agree with that. But it did jump over. So my understanding of they've closed. The police are all over the place, cutting access to roads. You can't go on the parkway, which is the major north-south artery in New Jersey, as you know. Well, certainly up and down the coast over here. And between exit 80 and exit 63, from what I've heard, it's completely closed off. I know you can go south at 63, which is in my township, if you're heading south there, which is good, but you cannot go north. There is a lot of smoke. Where I live, I have Atlantic City Electric, and if you just travel, not even a quarter mile up the main road by my house, then you're in the JCP&L service area where they intentionally cut power to Barnegat and a few other towns, which, looking at the outage map, it affects about 25,000 residents. Wow. So I have been in touch with JCP&L, and they can restore power. They hope to as soon as they get the clearance from the incident commander, but we obviously don't know when that will be.
Amigos, we're on with New Jersey State Assemblyman Greg Myhre, New Jersey's 9th district, which is southern Ocean County, where these fires are happening. He's former mayor of Manahawkin, which is in Stafford Township within Ocean County. It's a beach town, beautiful town, by the way. And Greg Myhre, what do you think, or are you hearing anything from your political connections or anybody anywhere that's telling you, we think we're going to have this thing contained pretty soon?
Well, I have been in touch with a number of people, elected officials, as well as administrators in the affected towns in the district. I know at Southern Regional High School, that's in my town, they had set up a shelter there. And they had at least 150 people there, probably at its peak. A lot of those people decided to go home when they decided they didn't want to sleep in a high school gym. So I think it was primarily senior citizens, from what I'm understanding, but they did have the Red Cross there running the operation. They even had a animal control. I believe it was through the county, had something set up out in the parking lot, like a trailer for animals if you want to bring your pets there. Yeah, because, if you think about it, you talk about 3,000 homes that you mentioned. That could be a lot of people and a lot of pets that need to find a place to go. So that's good. And also Manchester High School to the north, they were sending them there as well, which is another large high school. So there are facilities that are being made available. And there has been all the communities in the area, from people that I've spoken to, have been providing mutual aid in terms of police and fire. People are confused actually seeing police from other towns within their township, but that's what happens in these type of emergencies. So it is good to see the area emergency personnel coming together.
Yeah, really, it's good to see the camaraderie, but it's just horrible to see this whole thing happening overall. Mr. Assemblyman, I want to thank you for being here and giving us an update here. And if there's anything pressing that you want to let us know, make sure you give us a call back. Let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with you and how they can follow you and keep up to speed with your work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich. And we're going to be staying on top of this, and hope this will be contained by the morning.
You bet. Is there a website or a Twitter handle or something you want to give out?
You can check out.
All right. I'm not sure if we still have you. I think we might have lost them. Pressing matters with this wildfire stuff. But, folks, that's Assemblyman Greg Myhre of New Jersey. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Godspeed to you. My best to your family. Amigos, we come right back with some discussion from you all, the American people, and a combat medic. Don't go anywhere.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We're going to get to your calls. I see calls from Ohio, Florida, Montreal, and more. Before we do, I want to welcome in Colonel Josh McConkey. He's a U.S. Air Force combat physician. He's the author of the award-winning best-selling book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Colonel, welcome.
Thank you very much, Rich. Pleasure to be on the show.
Likewise, pleasure to have you, sir. And I want to, I know that you've had a lot of interaction with veterans and the associated mental health issues that veterans face, especially on the battlefield as a combat physician. However, I want to talk about the broader topic of mental health as well, in particular young people that I think are still suffering from the grip that COVID-19 had on them, kicking them out of school. I have a teenager that was kicked out of school because they shut down the school, and it was really, really rough for her. And she's one of many, right, in that group. But there's a quick soundbite from the news that I wanted to play for you. Listen to this, Colonel.
Particularly now, Gen Z, 7 in 10 have a mental health issue, and that's just massive. And that is, I think, technology and phones and,
Yep.
and validation.
Validation's a big thing.
It's massive. And when you've got that young person working for you, you need to keep telling them if they're doing a good job or not. And people of my generation and older, they're like, we just got on with it.
Yep.
No one, but that's how they tick. And they're so used to likes and this, that, and the other. And you need to be supporting them. And, people think differently. People are different. And it's understanding the differences and enabling them to do the best with those differences.
That is from the Through the Eye podcast, but that's an alarming number. 7 in 10 Gen Z workers have mental health issues. And this is interesting. And according to that clip, says that they should be treated differently than other generations. What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, so when you take those types of bad policy decisions, surprisingly enough, shutting them out of school, shutting them out of church, and separating them from society was not a good choice for them.
Yeah.
As an emergency physician, I see the results of that now. I see the anxiety, the depression, and unfortunately a lot of suicides as well on the civilian side. And then on the military side, I can echo those comments. They lack resiliency skills. They quit very easily. You could call them very fragile. And, just pointing that out and, hey, back in my day, isn't helpful for them. So not that you treat them differently, but that perception that they have, that is their reality. They have never known the world without an iPhone, without instant access to information and social media. It's not good for their mental development, but we have to find a way to get through to these kids and adapt and overcome.
Folks, we're on with Colonel Josh McConkey, U.S. Air Force combat physician, author of the book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. And when you talk about, adjusting your approach, not necessarily treating them differently, but being aware of how this generation is different, what are some of the things that you're talking about in doing that and how you approach these situations?
So you have to give them ownership in your organization right off the bat. If they don't feel like they're a part of that, they just quit and walk away. They fold at a moment's notice. So you have to give them ownership, get them involved in your organization. Those constant feedback of, hey, you're doing a great job is very true. With generations prior to that, that's just not the way I was raised. It was, you just pound it out, grind things out, and you eventually get some recognition. They just have to have that recognition very early and often, and have to have that engagement in your organization, or they walk.
That's interesting. Yeah, it really is. And what are some of your recommendations on building additional resilience? Because I feel like they're not as resilient as other generations. And I know I'm not as resilient as, let's say, the greatest generation, right? Those guys were real men. I'm just, a shadow of a World War II vet, right? But when you look at that and you think we're becoming, I guess, generationally softer, and I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean that as by way of life, by economy, by technology, ease of use. And this somehow is handicapping them. How do you fix that?
So just they're offended at everything. They're offended all the time. They're outraged. You have to teach them that there are other sides to every issue, right? You're not going to agree on things. We're not always going to be best friends, but you do have to learn how to get along with people and at least understand the other side of things. You can totally disagree with that, right? But getting them engaged very early, the problem really comes down to like a lot of the parenting changes. So there used to be just helicopter parents, right? Now they're lawnmower parents. So they mow down everything in their child's obstacles, every obstacle in their path, and they don't know how to overcome the most simple things. It's like they experience a very minor hiccup, and it's the first time they've ever had a problem, and they don't know what to do. So you have to let your kids get out there. You have to let them make some mistakes, do it safely, be there for them, sit around the dinner table, chat about the day. Hey, what went wrong today? What could you have done differently to maybe change the outcome of the day? But let them get out there and make some mistakes, because the helicopter parenting is destroying their resiliency.
Yeah, I'm with that. I get that, both as a parent and whenever I've intervened and trying to figure out how do I help my kid navigate this on their own. So that's really good advice. Let us take a pause right here and then come right back. I want to explore a little bit about the title of your book, and then, of course, what inspired you to write it. Folks, we're on with Dr. Josh McConkey. He's a colonel in the United States Air Force, a combat physician, and the author of the award-winning best-selling book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. We're going to talk about that book when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with our guest, Josh McConkey. Dr. Josh McConkey is a colonel in the United States Air Force, combat physician, and the author of the book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Now, Doc, tell us about the namesake of the book, the title of the book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear. Why did you choose that title?
So that's my leadership ethos. I've been a military commander for the last 3 years. I've been very fortunate to work with some special operators. I was a prior medical director for combat search and rescue. And those types of real patriots, jumping out of helicopters, taking down bin Laden, that's the tip of the spear. I cannot do that. I save lives. I don't take lives, but I can be the weight behind that tip of the spear. And when you work with these men and women, you see the best resource that we have in this country is our people. So each one of these true heroes had a favorite coach or a teacher or a family member that gave them the confidence to do what they do. They've got monster egos as well, believe me, because nobody else can do what they do. But that is the best resource that we have is our people. So I want people to engage their community, be the weight behind the spear for something or someone, and make a difference.
Really well put. Now, let's talk about the book. What was the inspiration in writing this book?
Boy, what I see every day at work as an emergency doctor, the anxiety, the depression, the suicide, and then as a military commander, just that lack of leadership skills and resiliency. I realized, listen, the government is not going to save us, okay? The government is not the answer. It has to be you. It has to be people in your community, teachers, coaches, volunteers, mentors. That is the best resource that we have. It's the best resource we've always had. That's what sets America apart. And we need people to engage and be part of that, be the weight behind the spear.
Outstanding. Now, I want to get some juxtapositions from you having done this often, right? You've done 340 hours as a flight surgeon, 90 combat hours up in the air. This is an interesting thing, right? You've got an Air Medal and an Army Commendation for service during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Really remarkable stuff here. How could you compare some of the stuff you've seen on the battlefield with what you see in the ER?
So, yeah, unfortunately, depending where you're working at in the country, there are a lot of regions where you will see. I spent some time in Baltimore, and you see more gunshots there on a call night than you do in Iraq. It's a lot of times, depending what phase of the war you were in. And then, just a lot of the mental health issues with this generation. You can call them more fragile. You can call them just lacking resiliency. I mean, that doesn't really help. It's still their reality. And so I see a lot, almost higher incidence of those mental health issues and stressors than you would see with combat stress and with PTSD in combat veterans. So, it's hard to compare those two, but that's their reality. And boy, when you see all the mental health issues and the suicides, and you sit down and you cry with these families, I mean, it rips your heart out every time, but it's clearly an epidemic, and we have to address this as a country if we want to be successful and move forward.
What do you think some of the steps in addressing this are?
Better education on social media. It's so omnipresent. They just compare themselves to things that aren't reality. They see the best of everything, and everything is funny, and everything gets 1 million likes. And why don't I get 1 million likes? And I get bullied on my, on TikTok and Instagram. It's so different and foreign to the other, preceding generations in America. Like when I was a kid, you had to walk up to somebody and punch them in the nose. Now, like 24/7, you can just badger someone to the point of there's so many unfortunate cases of suicides and people that have just been bullied online and nobody ever laid a hand on them. It's different. We have to find a way to bridge that gap, and it's very concerning.
Doc, what are your, final words of wisdom here for everybody that's listening? What do they do? And I'm guessing they should probably get a copy of your book. And, when they do, what's the big takeaway they're going to walk away with, the big lesson?
That what they do every single day matters. The people around you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, those interactions that you have are so important. Everyone has a different skill set. Get out there and coach Little League, volunteer in your church, find some other service organizations. Maybe you just don't like people. Get out in some animal shelters. Those animals can be, mental health therapy support animals for somebody. But what you do every day matters. Your government is not going to save you. It has to be you.
I love it. You may not be able to be the tip of the spear, but you could be the weight behind the tip of the spear. And that's a really good philosophy to have. Dr. Josh McConkey, Colonel, United States Air Force combat physician, I want to thank you for being here. Amigos, make sure you check out the website, weightbehindthespear.com. Weight, WEIGHT, behindthespear.com. Sir, I want to thank you for being here. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
You bet. Amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions are coming up right now. Open phones across America. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Yes, sir. I just want to tell you that I love your show. I listen every day. I think you're a true professional. I think you're one of the best.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Open Phones Across America. We take your calls live, 833-4-VALDEZ. Where do we go We go to Tampa, Florida, streaming the show on richvaldez.com. Let's go to Eduardo. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Rich. Well, we got to talk about this story with Judge Kano, a Democrat in New Mexico, who resigned because he had some Venezuelan company, as in Tren de Agua. And,
isn't this something, right? I saw this ABC News. This is crazy, this one. Washington, in Washington State. Crazy stuff, right? Listen to this. There's these pictures, the guy's there, and the judge is holding guns and videos that have been posted. The gang members are in the picture. The gang member is in a picture with him. This is very, very interesting here. And again, this is the Doña Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Kano. Kano resigned last month in what appeared to be a retirement, though now we see that it's coming after a raid at his house, which Department of Homeland Security agents conducted. And I got to tell you, that's pretty scary stuff, thinking that these agents found Christian Ortega Lopez, an illegal immigrant, and Tren de Aragua gang member living in the judge's house. These people are in our judiciary. Makes you wonder who is living in Judge Boasberg's house, right, Eduardo?
Right. You're thinking about, yeah, definitely, yeah. We got to check his house out, yeah, and some of these other judges.
Unbelievable. Really, thanks for bringing that up. I had this on my desktop, and I've been meaning to talk about it. I shared it on social media, but really just really nuts, the things that are going on. Former ICE field director John Fabricatori said that the judge's daughter is allowing this illegal alien to have access to firearms, which is unlawful under 18 U.S.C. 922G. It's a felony for this illegal alien to be in possession of firearms. Last year, an operation in New Mexico named Operation Disruption led to the rescue of 91 migrants being held in stash houses, many in Doña Ana County. Now, the other day I told you about some trafficking that happened 20 years ago at bars in New Jersey, and the police were the ones that were providing the security. The bouncer at the door of the bar was an on-duty cop, right? It was a fully uniformed cop, and that was hired, contracted by the bar. And it just makes you think, how entrenched can the cartels and these transnational gangs actually be? Well, very entrenched. Eduardo, thank you for your call, my brother. Let's go to Debbie, Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Go right ahead quickly.
Yes. Hi, Rich.
Hi.
First of all, I want to tell you the guest you had on, the Navy guy, about the stress with the kids.
Yes.
I see that in my grandchildren. It's real. Yeah, it's real. And we're getting through it. My granddaughter turned 21 today on Earth Day.
Oh, happy birthday.
She's getting better.
I'm happy to hear that. It really is a silent
better,
epidemic that we're dealing with on so many fronts, because there's not only a lot of kids that are dealing with that, but you got adults dealing with it in the workplace because they were kind of separated from the workplace and they never want to go back. And it's just quite an interesting situation. Debbie in Canton, Ohio, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you and your family. WNIR in the building. Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, go right ahead. Quickly.
Hey, Rich, great to talk to you. Yeah, Rich, I needed a clarification. I know you're not an attorney, and I'm not. And maybe I need to ask Billy Cunningham the next time I call.
Quicker.
Call him. If you're a non-citizen, do you still have due process rights?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, you get them, but you don't get the same rights as a citizen would get. Good question, and maybe we could do a little bit more on that tomorrow. Tony in Montreal, I'm also shocked by the lack of awareness in the Democrat Party, but this is what happens when AOC and Jasmine Crockett are the leaders. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.